All right, so this is just a little video helping to understand the 4.6 quiz a little bit better. Now remember, we are graphing, we're looking at graphs, we're looking at points, and we're looking at tables or other formats, and we're going to be putting that in our equation, which is in the form y equals mx plus b. So our y is always there. It's a given. Our equal sign is always there. That's a given. Our m is what we have to look for. The x is always here. It's a given. And then it's either going to be plus or minus b, depending on whether it's positive or negative. Now remember, the m is our slope. We find it in a few different ways depending on what we're looking at. So we're going to be popping a number into the m spot. And then our b is the y-intercept. And again, if it's on a graph, we are going to look at where the line hits the y-intercept. That's the up and down line. And if it's in an ordered pair, it's always where x is 0. So it's 0 comma some number. That number, whatever the second number is, that's your b, that's your y-intercept. So let's look at the first example together on there. So remember, on a graph, we find our slope, our m, or we call it our slope, by counting rise over run. So rise means up or down, and run means right to left. So what we need to do is pick two spots where it hits exactly. So I'm going to use this one here. It hits exactly here at like -4. And then I'm just going to follow my line up to see, oh, it hits exactly right here as well. So I'm going to do from the left point, I have to start just like reading. I'm going to see how many I go up. I'm going to make the triangle. So it looks like I only go up 1, and I'm going up 1, so that's my rise. And I go over, I have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my triangle. So I went up 1 and over 5. So that's my m when I go to plug it into my equation, y equals mx plus b. So now I have to find my b. On a graph, the b is actually one of the easier things to figure out. The b is when you look at the y-axis. So I'm just going to shade this in. That's the y-axis. You just look at your line, where at what number, positive or negative, does your line hit the y-axis. So I'm going to look at my line here, and I look, oh, it hits right here. It hits exactly right here. And if I count that, it's down 1, 2, 3, 4. This point is actually -4. So my b is -4. So now I have the two things I need for an equation. So I always have y and equals something x and then plus or minus something else. We fill in my m. We fill in my b. Since we just found the slope, the rise over run, I'm going to put in the 1/5. So now it's y equals 1/5 x, and then my b is minus or -4. So I have an equation now. It says y equals 1/5 x minus 4. This is how I write my equation from a graph. So now I'm going to look at the second type, part 2. I'm not going to do the second graph, just because it's exactly the same way we do the first one. You count rise over run. That's your slope by doing the triangle. You find your b by looking at what number does your line hit the y-axis. So part 2 is you're given two ordered pairs. These are ordered pairs, or they're actually points on a graph. And we're going to use our formula. I'm going to write it over here. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we'll talk about real quick what those mean in a second, but that's going to give you your slope. So we just label these points. This is x1 because it's the first x I see. This is y1 because it's the first y I see. This is an ordered pair, so it goes x, y. That's the reason why we label those that, and that's where the formula came from. So then when I go to the second ordered pair, this is my second x, so I name it x2. And then this one is y2. So then remember when we started this unit, I had you guys do the boxes so you could fill them in. We always know it's going to be y2 minus whatever y1 is. And then we put that over just like a fraction over x2. Again, I'm going to put the box minus x1. And then we fill them in and simplify. So when I look at these up here, I've already labeled them. This is x1, y1. So I just go to, okay, I want my y2. So my y2 when I look is 3. I'm going to pop it in this box. And then my y1, okay, I already labeled them so I can see y1. That's my 5. Then I go to the bottom, x2. I can see my x2 is 0. So I pop it in there, and my x1, I look at it, that's why I labeled it, is my 8. So then I just use my calculator across the top and across the bottom, and then if I can simplify, I will. 3 minus 5. I just typed that in my calculator, and I got -2. The bottom, 0 minus 8 in my calculator says -8. So then remember what I said, or I say every day almost, if you're not sure, or even if you think you know, we always want to put it in our calculator to double check that our fraction or number is simplified. So I just typed in -2 divided by -8, or I can use my fraction key too and do -2 over -8. It means the same thing, and my calculator actually just told me 1/4. So that's the simplified version. So that is my final m. I'm going to need that piece when I do my y equals mx plus b. Now with ordered pairs, what's nice is the b, remember we talked about that at the top of the quiz, when I had you write this up here, the y-intercept is at, or the b, it's the same thing, is actually, if you have an ordered pair that starts with a 0 and then comma, whatever number is next to the 0 is your b. So if I look at this, one of my ordered pairs is actually 0 comma something. This tells me my b is next to that 0. So my b is actually a +3. So I'm just going to label that +3 equals b. And it matters if it's positive or negative because that's where you find out if it's going to be plus or minus. So now I have my b and my m. I have my pieces. Again, my equation is always y equals something x. Those are always the givens. Y equals in the x. And then something else. The first something is y equals m, whatever my m is, x, and then remember my b. It's a plus or minus b. So we already figured out our m. We simplified it. It was 1/4. And again, we use the formula because the 2 points. So I put that in. Y equals 1/4 x. And then my b is a +3. I saw it up here, 0 comma, whatever's next to the 0. So it's a +3. So my final equation is y equals 1/4 x plus 3. I just filled in my m and my b. That's all I had to do. And then another type of problem you're going to see, I'm going to go down to number 5 because it's very similar. Actually, this one is even easier because it's just giving to you in a sentence. It tells you the b and it tells you the m. So this is one of the easier ones. You just have to know the vocab. So we talked about already our y-intercept is our b. So if our b right here, it says the y-intercept is -7. We know that b equals -7. We have that part of the equation. And then it says, and our slope is 1/2. Remember, slope is our m. We call it m in the equation. So now we have m equals 1/2. So again, y equals something x, and then something else, plus or minus. Our m is always next to the x, and then our b or y-intercept is always at the end. So the sentence told us everything. There wasn't much math to do. We just had to pick out keywords. So our 1/2. So we have y equals 1/2 x, because our m is the 1/2. I pop it next to the x. And then our b is it said -7 or -7. It means the same thing. So I'm going to put that in there, -7. That's my final equation. It is y equals 1/2 x minus 7. And then my last type of problem from a table. We do this exactly the same as we did, oops, sorry there. We do this one exactly the same as we did up here for number 3. And what that means is we're going to pick 2 points and use the formula to find slope. And then we're going to look at the ordered pairs in the table, though, the x, y's in the table, and we're going to find where x is 0, the number next to the x is our b. So let's pick that one out first, since I'm noticing here's my ordered pairs, -2, 1, it's just given in a table. This one here is my b. We have 0, 2, and how you would write that is 0, 2. So right away, I know that my b equals a +2. And then what I do is I just pick the first 2 ordered pairs, and I'm going to label them. This is x1. This is y1. This would be x2. This would be y2. You can also write them out over to the side like -2, 1 if it looks better to you because you see it like that. And then 0, 2 if it looks better to you just because we did the number 3 like that. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And then again, I use the boxes to fill in for the slope. So I'm at y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And since I've labeled them, now it's really easy to pop my numbers in. So I'm going to look at what is my y2. Okay, y2 is going to be 2. y1 is 1. x2 is 0. And x1 is -2. And then I just simplify it. So 2 minus 1 gives me 1. 0 minus 2 gives me a -2. And then again, just make sure in your calculator, 1 over -2. When you simplify it, it actually comes out to -1/2. So you can keep the negative sign where it's at. So again, you're just left with y equals something x, something else. My m goes here, my b goes here. We figured out my slope, or my m, is -1/2. And my b, which was next to the 0, 0, comma, and then it's +2. And that's the equation for the last one. So I want to make sure you go through this and try the blank quiz again and take these notes. And then once you have that, you feel like you can do this on your own, I'm going to send you another version of the quiz and have some of the boxes and things in here for you. But I want you to give this another try.